Black people all over the world are suffering and dying too soon from illnesses that have plagued our communities for centuries. At IndyGeneUS Health, we are on a mission to build the most valuable and genetically diverse data bank on the planet. Although people with African ancestry make up more than 20% of the global population, our genetic data is less than 3% of the data used in drug discovery. We are frustrated by the status quo and are determined to make a difference by becoming the change we want to see. We know you have lots of questions, and we're excited to answer those questions. You will also receive a free personalized health assessment. Join our community today at byusforall.com. Understand your health. When was the last time you talked to your doctor about inherited traits that make you more vulnerable to certain illnesses? We invite you to join the Genius community by signing up at byusforall.com. As a Genius member, you will receive a personalized health risk assessment that helps start the conversation with your doctor. All right. Well, welcome. I'm just going to bring everybody in the room. I'm so excited that we're going live today and excited to introduce you all to some of my colleagues. My name is Madia Logan. Thank you all for joining us. I am our Chief Member Officer at IndyGeneUS Health and very excited to have the gentleman here to talk about IndyGeneUS Health and what we're doing in health equity. So this is going to be a quick 30 minutes where we're going to talk a little bit about some of the company progress, and then we're going to talk about just the work that we're doing, and we're excited to share that with you all. So as we're gonna do group introductions, so you all will hear from the other three founders today just on some of their experience and background, but they're also going to share with you why you should sign up for byusforall.com, which is very important. So I'm excited to introduce the group and get a little conversation going. So we will kick it off. I'm gonna pass the ball to Michael Akinyele, and he's going to talk to us, introduce himself, and then talk to us a little bit about why it's critical that we all sign up for BIAS for All, and share a little information on the company progress and an announcement that we're gonna share today. Go ahead, Michael.
Thanks, Maria. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. Glad to be here. Welcome, everyone. Wanted to just share that we're excited to be on the precipice of launching our first MVP of our application, our software application that we're hoping to provide the free health risk assessments that we've talked about to finally make that available to the public. So that's coming out next month in December. And what we hope to do today is show you a little bit of what that experience might look like and what folks may be able to get out of really going into the app and engaging around some pretty useful information, getting some better insights around things that they might be at risk for, and then ultimately the opportunity for us to continue to build out the features on the app. In addition to talking about the app, we'll also in the month of December and beyond be introducing a couple more advisors that we've been able to bring on. We'll also be able to talk through some strategic partnerships and a whole lot more. So really excited about the opportunity to kind of share more as time progresses. But for today, it's really about just what's on the precipice, which is really getting through our mobile application and our web application and getting people to be able to go through and have an experience of answering a couple of questions and really getting some better insights into health risks. And then ultimately, folks being able to get some genetic testing done to really get more insights into some of those health risks. But it all starts with just engaging us on the app and getting some questions answered.
Yes, wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for that. I'm going to ask Yusuf and Dr. Wilson to please introduce yourselves, just share a little bit of your background, just a couple minutes, and then Michael will come back to you to go into the app walkthrough. Yusuf, you like to jump in?
Yeah,
Sounds great.
sure. Sounds good. Appreciate it. Hello, everyone. Yusuf Henriques, founder and CEO of IndyGeneUS Health. Um, One of the reasons why IndyGeneUS Health was started is what Madia and Michael just echoed is is to get more individuals in our community to join up and to be part of a movement, which I think has to happen now, which is getting more engagement of Black and Brown individuals within our communities in clinical trials, which will lead to better drug. My personal story is my kids that are twins. My oldest daughters were identified as having a rare genetic eye disorder. So we have been continuously monitoring their progress over the last couple of years. Glad that we were able to identify it early and could do a lot of the early detection, early prevention. And that's kind of one of the underlying engines that we're creating at IndyGeneUS Health, which is being able to look at some of these genetic predisposition that's within our communities and some of the health disparities, and being able to provide awareness and provide health literacy for our community, so that they can have informed decisions around what is the best way of treatment. So excited to have you guys here. Looking forward to the discussion, and let's make the changes that we want to see.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Dr. Wilson?
Good evening, everyone. Dr. Bradford Wilson. I'm a geneticist by training, and my research background is in health disparities, looking at prostate cancer and breast cancer and some other disparities that disproportionately impact Black and Brown populations. And the COVID pandemic has kind of highlighted these disparities that we've known about for some time. And the most important reason that people join up and sign up for Bias for All is to participate in the research that is going to benefit our communities. Specifically looking at these diseases that we categorize as health disparities, right? That have been disproportionately impacting our populations for such a long time, and that COVID has kind of brought back to the forefront. And the most important thing is that we get involved and get engaged in research around these diseases so that we can identify the drivers of those things. We understand that certain of these diseases that impact our populations are caused by genetic drivers that are maybe specific to our populations. So in order for us to identify what those things are, it's really important that we all participate. And Bias for All is the first step in doing that.
Right. This is a perfect segue into the topic, and I'll bring everybody up just in case you all have a comment. But I wanted to talk about uh, the death we learned today that Virgil Abloh passed away, and he was an artist, very well known artist. He worked for Louis Vuitton, and he also started his own brand, Off White. He also was a DJ. And in an earlier conversation today, Dr. Wilson told me that he did some, was it did you say album covers? Like he designed some album covers? Yeah, so he's just an artist, known, I think, largely for being a designer, but he passed away. We learned about his death today, and I wanted Dr. Wilson to just talk to us a little bit about he had a rare disease, a rare illness, a rare type of cancer, and I wanted Dr. Wilson to talk to us a little bit about the overlap and why that is relevant for Indigenous health.
Sure. So at Indigenous and Indigenous Health, we are focused on, as I mentioned, diseases that impact our community, Black and Brown and Indigenous communities, and whether they be common or rare, right? So in this case, it's a rare form of cancer, it's angiosarcoma, which is what unfortunately took Virgil Abloh's life, um, and it is overall a rare form of cancer. However, it's one of those types of cancers that is difficult to treat. And it's actually often usually seen a little later in life. So he was relatively young to be diagnosed with this type of cancer based on what are the known averages for people who have it. So that's a kind of an indication when things show up early that there are some genetic drivers at play, right? So he would be, and members of his family would be ideal people that we would want to get into a research study on angiosarcoma to look at what the potential genetic drivers are in terms of genetic variants that maybe put you at increased risk for rare cancers like angiosarcoma, just the same way as common cancers like prostate and breast and colon.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yusuf or Michael, you all have anything to add?
No, I think it's heartbreaking when things like this happen. The question I would have on my end probably goes to Brad, which is, is there anything that could have been done either from a screening standpoint or an assessment standpoint to give a heads up earlier in his life, his life, basically Virgil's life, that could have clued him into the risk he was at, to getting this cancer, or is it just the science isn't there yet?
Well, we're on the verge with genomics and whole genome sequencing. We can start to answer some of these questions, like what puts people at increased risk for cancers in general, right? And then in addition to that, more specifically, like what puts people at increased risk for breast cancer or prostate cancer, or in this case, angiosarcoma. So these are the types of things that we can answer, types of questions that we can answer when we do research and we utilize technology like whole genome sequencing. And then we can do studies that look at genetic associations across your whole genome for people who have a common disease, whether they be related or unrelated individuals, and compare them to people who don't have that disease. So these are very powerful tools that we can utilize to answer some of these questions and identify the drivers and the causes of some of these rare diseases as well as common ones.
Yeah. It
Yeah,
reminds me of the video that Nadia did. No, go ahead, Yusuf, please.
yeah, no, and I think, again, to sum up, both of what we're talking about is early detection, early prevention. I think within our communities, that's something that's always been urgent care. Things that start to fall apart. I think what we're trying to do at Indigenous Health is to start getting the health literacy out for people to start looking for some of these early signs. And then in cases like this, when you've identified a family member that has this, is then to kind of look at that family history tree and starting to look, back to see how this is, shared across the different members of the family. And so, that's one of the importance of having Indigenous Health, that we're creating that a platform that'll be able to do that and aggregate, some of the genetic diseases and mutations that could be prevalent in your family, whether it's on your mother's side or your father's side, and really start to look at how that could play out, in offspring, and so that we can start looking at some of these. Now, maybe we weren't going to be able to detect or now to pick up what Virgil had, but what our goal is in the future is to then have the family benefit from this, right? Take this tragedy that's occurred but also learn from it. But also now you're more informed, and the family members that are a part of this young man's life that left way too soon could then start looking to make sure that the younger generation and cousins and siblings that he may have don't have this genetic trait. That if they do, start looking at ways how to treat it.
Yeah. You know, I'm so glad you said that because what I was thinking of was the video that we did with Nadia. And Nadia's mom passed away. She had a few different forms of cancer, but she had breast cancer. And Nadia was saying how she wanted to learn about her health to just be more proactive about it. And so that hereditary or genetic um, those traits that make you more susceptible to certain illnesses, it's important to know and understand. Anything else on the topic? There's so much. There's just been so much. We posted about it on our channels about Virgil's passing and how important it is, to acknowledge that there's more work to be done, right? To extend um, the lives and the care for these uh, marginalized communities, for the Black and Brown folks, for women, and for veterans. And those are all of the populations, the underrepresented populations that we're focused on. Any last minute thoughts on that before we jump over to invite folks to sign up? All right. Well, Michael, I will hand the ball back to you. I will not hand the ball back to you. Do you want to talk
I'll
a
take the
little
ball.
bit?
Happy to walk through a demo. But I think I forgot to even do an intro. So I could do a little bit on that.
Perfect.
Yeah, because I just went straight to answering the updates. So Michael Akinyele, founder president, IndyGeneUS Health, excited to be part of this team, excited to just support the effort that we're undertaking to really bring our community together, to really educate folks about health risks, to see what we can do in our own little way to address all the health disparities and all these issues that have gone on for too long, all these issues that remain underfunded compared to the millions and hundreds of millions that are impacted that just so happen to be people of color. And so it's really about bringing our communities together to prioritize some of these issues that remain underfunded, that remain under researched, and providing as much information as we can, and hopefully building community around these issues and then transitioning from the community building into problem solving. And the main tool that we're intending to use for a lot of that community building is the Genius app that we're developing and hope to sort of share with the world pretty soon. And so, with that, I'll go into some of what that looks like, and hopefully, folks are able to ask questions down the road. So let me just share my screen, and we can go through that.
Great. And while you're getting that up and running, I'll just invite people to go check out buyusforall.com. You'll see some of our founder stories about why we signed up, about why we started the company, and why we are encouraging you to sign up as a member of the community. It is buyusforall.com. And we'd love to welcome you as a community member. It takes about 2 minutes, 4 questions, I believe, 4 or 5 questions to sign up. And when you sign up, you will be notified when the app launches, which is really important. Okay, Michael, we got your screen up. Okay, we can see it.
Excellent, excellent. All right, so just gonna go through. This is what you expect to experience when you enter into our application. And it really just engages immediately and just says that we're really here for our community and we're really here to help you so to get a better understanding of your health with a free health risk assessment. So it's important to us to engage people from different parts of the world. And so we're really setting this up to create a personalized experience for folks based on different regions they're in. And so with the selection of a region, it starts to customize your experience. The next approach to customization comes through a selection of language. And so with that selection, you're really then getting into the opportunity to sign up through any of these platforms you may already be connected to, or by creating essentially a new login. And once you're in, you really go through a couple of security questions, protocol wise, to sort of customize the security access to your mobile application, and to really understand that in the event that you may need to reset your password, there's something that we're putting in to really help folks,
Mm-hmm.
have a more gated access to the application set that they have, and to their
Yeah.
profile. And so, even if something were to happen, hopefully the security questions you set up aren't questions that everyone knows the answer to. So beyond that, then you land on your profile page, and really you have the opportunity to agree to a lot of different things around compliance. You have the opportunity to consent, and basically give your permission around how the survey data on the platform gets used, how you could permission access to your electronic health records, and then ultimately how you could consent for genetic testing. If we were to go into your profile, a couple of basic questions get answered that you fill in, and it just helps provide some more context for what you are kind of all about and what you're interested in. Beyond your profile, then you really get the opportunity to start answering some of the questions that help us provide some information back, that help get to a personalized health risk assessment. And so, one of the more important ones really gets into, history, family health history. And so this allows you to sort of just go through and select any of these ones, and then basically select different members of the family that could have had those things. And that allows you to just kind of go through and provide relevant information, which then ultimately starts feeding into an algorithm that then says, based on the information you've provided, here are the different things that would populate into a health risk assessment. And so, in the context of the health risk assessment, there are a variety of categories that we're going to provide information on from a health risk standpoint. So, from personal health to things around COVID-19, to family health, things around our culture, and then ultimately opportunity to just get into a little bit more about your genetics. The other piece
Great.
of what makes this really interesting is, we've been creating a lot of content, and some of that content is also going to be hosted in the application. And so all of what we've created, all of what we hope to share, is really built out into this application. And while there's a lot more to be shared as far as what the platform is designed and intended to do, the initial step is really just to bring people on and to help them, establish a profile, and to start answering some questions that allow us to start giving back information around health risks that they might have. And so, with
Hey,
that,
Michael,
Madia, I'm
we
not
have
sure if, yes, go ahead.
we have a question. And so
Yay.
Kelia Phillips has asked a question. I have it at the bottom of the screen, but I'll read it out loud. Will Indigenous focus on rare diseases and cancers, or on creating specific therapy and pharmaceuticals for chronic disease that affect the BIPOC population? Woo! It's a real question, Kelia. Thank
So,
you.
thank you for the question. And I assume a lot of us are going to have a perspective on this. So, Indigenous health, it's really about prevention and education. And in as much as our journey gets us into drug development and drug discovery, that's something we
Mhm.
intend to do with partners. A lot of that is going to be driven by the data that our members are able to engage us with, and some of the opportunities we then have to build cohorts from that population set on our platform. And so, if those cohorts trend towards rare genetic diseases, then that's where we'd go. If they trend towards some of the conditions that affect people of color that we're focused on, like sickle cell or hypertension or some of the other issues around mental health, if that's where the data leads, then that's really where we'll go. But the goal is to build the data infrastructure that allows us to investigate conditions primarily affecting people of color, and that's our credo. And whether it be rare diseases, cancers, or chronic illnesses, if there's a health disparity in outcomes achieved by people of color, that's where we're focused. And happy to have our boss correct me if I'm wrong, and have our medicist also shed
I
some
feel
light.
like Brad wants to say something too.
He
No?
might, oh yeah, Brad's holding back. He wants to say something. So
He's just always very like.
I think, again, I think Michael highlighted it. We got to start somewhere, right? So we're building this ecosystem. So, we have to go through the steps because unfortunately, there is nothing currently right now that emphasizes the need for us to look at, as Michael mentioned, these are areas of research, and Brad has been studying some of these areas for a long time. These areas have just been neglected, let's just be honest. And so, that's indigenous focus, is to focus on the health disparities and the disease areas that are affecting and killing our group and our population. So that's where we're starting from, which is why we're creating a platform to educate, do early detection, early prevention, and then eventually that'll lead into where we start to see trends. We start to see, targeted areas. We start to see common cancers that's amongst, whether it's women, breast cancer, men, prostate cancer, and whatever else other cancers that starts to manifest in our community. That's what we're gonna spend our energy and time in order to drive that initial conversation around providing as much content to the individuals within those communities, and then overall then start focusing on the needle in the haystack and what are some of the genetic drivers. And I'll let Brad kind of touch that part of it as far as the science. But yeah, start identifying the genetic underpinnings of some of these disease areas, whether it's going to be rare or unrare. It's the health disparity for us, and that we're going to be focusing on. And so we're not going to pick rare over, general disease areas. What we're going to do is look at the communities that we're serving, and whatever those health disparities are that are in mass, affecting our communities. Those are the ones that we'll start to spend a lot more resource and economic power around looking at the genomics of those profiled individual, and then trying to find out ways how we can start pinning down some of the drug targeted areas that could potentially help with that disease area.
Yeah, just really quickly, I think the question was, are we going to look at rare diseases, or are we looking at treatments for more common diseases? And the answer is yes. We're looking at all of it because we're, again, to reiterate, we're looking at, our focus is on in diseases that impact our community and the Black, Brown, and Indigenous community. And whether it be common cancers like breast, prostate, and colon, or rarer cancers like angiosarcoma that Virgil was impacted with, or multiple myeloma. I have a friend who lost a parent to multiple myeloma, which is another cancer in the community. There's also sometimes can be melanoma in the African American community. So there are also some rarer forms of cancer that pop up in our populations as well. So we're looking at both common and rare. And then if you're talking about other diseases, that are less common, things like sarcoidosis, that if anyone remembers the comedian Bernie Mac, he suffered from that. Things like lupus that impact our communities, that are rarer in terms of compared to things like prostate cancer and breast cancer and colon cancer, but they're still impacting our communities disproportionately. So the answer is yes, we want to look at all of that, because first we have to educate our folks, get them engaged, and then get them involved in research. And then we can identify the targets and then develop treatments for those targets, and then really do something to impact these health disparities and drive health equity.
That's great. That's really great. Thank you so much, Dr. Wilson. And just quickly before we wrap up, because we're trying to keep it tight to 30 minutes, but I wanted to just very quickly introduce Giving Tuesday. And so we are really excited to be participating in Giving Tuesday. And we have an organization we're going to be working with. Dr. Wilson, would you like to do the honors or shall I?
Please go ahead.
All right, so we have here we're working with the Orally Smith Cancer Research Foundation and focusing on them to give our donations. So we'll be donating, and we will be asking our audiences to also donate to the Cancer Research Foundation. We have a partner in Dr. Hadia Green, and she has been wonderful. So we're excited about that partnership moving forward and excited to highlight and bring some resources and awareness to the Orally Smith Cancer Research Foundation. So please, you'll see it on our social feeds, and you'll be able to learn more. But there's a little preview as to what's coming tomorrow for IndyGeneUS Health and for biasforall.com. So I'll just quickly thank you all for attending, for watching. Remember, we're going to be back next week. We're going to try to keep these very tight and high level, but introduce you to how our community is growing and what you can do to be a part of it. So thank you for attending. Gentlemen, any last statements any final statements before we end?
Just wanted to kind of highlight and piggyback off of the last notice that you mentioned in terms of our support of the Orally Smith Cancer Research Foundation. One thing that we also want to address in terms of what we're doing here at Indigenous is the fact that we understand that there is an issue regarding our community and trust, and that we understand that if we are the ones that are doing the research and we are the ones that are getting them involved in clinical trials around with clinicians that look like our population, that's going to go a long way in impacting and in getting our folks involved and impacting the situation. And when we have, brilliant scientists like Dr. Hadia Green, who's developed this revolutionary cancer treatment that could have been potentially a benefit to people like Virgil Abloh, right? Unfortunately, and other folks that we have lost to cancer. When we have brilliant African American scientists developing treatments like this, we need to get involved in being a part of that research, because this could directly benefit our community, because we're suffering from prostate cancer and colon cancer and breast cancer, right? So we have Black scientists who are developing revolutionary treatments that could benefit us as a community. Those are the things we kind of need to get behind and support. So that's one of the reasons that we want to support organizations like the Orally Smith Cancer Research Foundation in their Giving Tuesday campaign, so we can bring more attention to groups like this, organizations like this. Researchers are doing this work so that we can get our folks engaged and involved.
That's great. Thank you.
And I know you wanted to shut it down, Madia, but let me throw something in just based on what Brad.
I never really want to shut it down.
You
Michael.
never
I think
really
you know that.
So it is critically important what Brad said about supporting our own, and that's kind of why Bias for All has been so exciting, because we do see the support. More than 90% of folks who have signed up so far are indicating that they are Black, Indigenous, people of color, and so it's not that our community doesn't want to be a part of research or engage around their health. It's they don't necessarily like some of the folks that are doing the engagement, and so they don't like it. They don't trust it. The history is part of the reason why. And so for us, we're very encouraged by some of the early indication that members of our community are actually seeing us as that trustworthy enterprise to really walk with them, partner with them in this journey. And so that's exciting for us. That's exciting for those that were engaging around the work of sort of improving the health of our community. Because that's what this is really all about. Bias for All is about how do we engage members of our community about their health, so that with that engagement, we can hopefully provide the tools and resources to help people, live their best lives, right? And if we can do that, then our entire community benefits. And that's why this is so exciting. Health is wealth. And so if everyone's healthy, they can be more productive, they can get more out of life, they can enjoy life instead of suffering through it. So this is all personal for all of us. So, but the trust is key. And I'm glad that we're starting to see early indications that folks trust us to do this work.
Yeah. Did you all see Dr. Green's comments?
Yes,
Thank you so much.
trust is
We're gonna
key.
work.
We
You know,
saw, we saw it. We
we're
saw
gonna
it
get her.
flashing.
We're gonna
We
get her
saw
to
it
join us one
flashing.
of
We
these
saw it.
Mondays. All right, great. Well, thank you all. Thank you all so much again for joining, and we'll see you back here next week on Monday. All right.
Pleasure.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Adios.